Hello everybody, and thank you for joining me today. My name is Gabriel Brent, and we are going to be doing the APA Swing Pub. Forex Swing Pub, I guess, would be more precise. As we're looking at the markets in the foreign exchange world, what we're attempting to do here today is give you a good idea of where is high and low and how to follow the trend with all the different news out there and events going on in today's world. We want to come back and bring it back to more of a technical, fundamental type of analysis. I guess I shouldn't say fundamental, but more of a technical analysis type of approach. So just to give you a little bit of the assumptions that we are making here is, first off, we're going to assume that you know a little bit about the Apazones methodology of using support and resistance, supply and demand zones in the direction of trends. Okay, we are going to be using 3 different time frames as we're looking at these markets, and mostly this is just for your information and for demonstration purposes. With the Epizone software, we can actually put all these 3 time frames into one nice neat chart and do it all on the fly. So, but just for today's presentation, we are going to be showing you how we do a top-down analysis from all these different markets. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started here. And I'm going to start out on the AC market here and looking at the weekly perspective. All right, so on the weekly perspective here, it looks like we've been kind of in a small range, if you will. All right, we see the big chocolate level up there, and we see where prices bounce down here on this nice little blue zone. The zone color does matter as far as the epizone approach does. It goes. It tells us how many times prices actually retested a level. Okay, so this is very important here. All right, so we're coming back up here to this big weekly level, and obviously we're seeing the retest of the high. And as we look at this stuff here on our daily time frame, and I just noticed that I don't have the ABBA Elite software on here, which is a real shame. So let me just make sure that that is on here. So what is this showing us? What is this telling us? All that type of good stuff. So the daily time frame is what I consider the context chart. Okay, and when we look at an overall idea of trend, this is the chart that we're going to be referring to. Okay, so we don't want to make any greater assumptions than what price is telling us. All right. So we know that by looking at this chart and by looking at the weekly that price has been moving to the up direction. Okay, so right now we're just looking for a good place to buy. All right, and as it looks right now, it looks like we've been finding ourselves in somewhat of a chop area where it's just been going back and forth and back and forth. You can kind of see the little weekly zone overlapped on, I believe, the daily chart. I believe that's how it looks. Let me double check that. No, that's just the daily zone. We just have the 2 daily zones lined up there. Okay, so we're just kind of going back and forth, back and forth. This is heavy chop. So if we're looking to follow with the trend, then this could be an area of nice continuation as it's going into this area of consolidation. Okay, we have the high of the range and pretty much the low of the range, which is where the zone is. So the main idea of the story is buy low, sell high. So here's where low is for the given range, and there's where high is. So do what you oughta, buy low and sell high. Moving on. All right, looking at the big weekly perspective. I would say that this on the weekly perspective looks like a range. And yes, we put in a new high up here, but it's just barely wicked above it. So we want to make sure that that's actually going to stick before doing anything, okay? So as we're approaching the top of this area here, because we're in a big weekly range, I just want you to know that, we need to take that as if you're looking to play the tops of the range, this would be a legit area to play the tops of the range. However, if you're looking more for the trend follow idea, and really a new trend direction, then to the long side may be a nice way to go because we have failed to break the low down here on a couple occasions, and now we're at the high of the extreme. All right. So counter trend would be to take this thing short off of this daily level. Okay. Trend follow technically would still be to the long. All right. And you can see all the consolidation that we're in on this market as well. All right. But just know what you're doing, and I think that's the big part of this thing is we just want to make sure that you know where you are at in context of these markets and the market conditions. Okay, so if you're going long, you want to be aiming for a target up here on those wicks somewhere, and then a new target above there in that yellow zone. Okay, if you're wanting to take it short, then we couldn't easily see a retest of consolidation down here to this aqua level. Okay. Personally, I'm just going to stick with what the context chart is saying, and that's up. So that's the way I would like to play this. Now, moving over here to our Aussie yen. We've been following this nice trend line down here on the weekly. We've touched down in the weekly, and now we are back into a weekly supply zone. All right. So on the weekly supply zone, we are there. And on the daily, it still looks like we have a little bit more space before we're touching that weekly supply. We're still in a downtrend. We've gotten pretty rangy on it, gotten just a little bit of a breakout, but I haven't seen a lot of conviction here yet. All right. Now, in our previous analysis, we were looking for price to come back up here, okay, which it did, and then push back down, and we have stopped there. It has come back up, but now we're rangy, and we just took out this high, okay. We basically took out a double top, all right, with those two right there. So now I'm going to be looking to the upside on this, all right, just to see if we can't find better resistance or supply up there and then push it back down, all right. So we may be forming a new range a little bit here, but you just got to take it one bar at a time, one day at a time, one week at a time as we're looking at this swing trade stuff. Right now, I don't see a good way to get on board on this thing, okay, from the daily perspective. If you're going to be buying, you want to be buying down here, okay, because you'd already want to be taking a target up here as this thing has retested this high, okay, and then looking for something like that, all right. Uh, if you're looking to do that there, all right. Now, technically, I still see the trend as being down, so I just want to wait and see until everything flips over before really going to the long side. I still think that we could get some downwards push out of this big weekly level, okay? So for the short term up there, and then we're just going to go with the trend and say to the downside, all right? We'll see how that works out for right now. Now, price movement will happen, trend will change. It's a guarantee. Change is going to happen. That's what I'm looking for right now. So I hope that helps. William, are you there? You want to take the next market here?
Sure, why not? Hello, everybody. I'm William. We're going to dive into the Aussie dollar here for a few minutes and talk about it. Here on the Aussie dollar, we find ourselves back at a fresh weekly supply zone. We just made contact. We're just making contact with it over the past week, and as you can see on the daily, uh, this Aussie dollar was in quite a bit of a big range here on the daily, and we just broke above the range just recently, a couple weeks ago, maybe I guess, and we find ourselves up. I think Gabe has that supply zone here highlighted. We find ourselves up here at the top of the up here at the supply zone on the weekly. We just got to bounce off of this daily level, and we're pushing up. The time to get on board, the trend was down here. If you missed it, it's probably a little late to get on board now. But we're testing this weekly zone here, so we'll see what happens when price gets up in here in these daily zones. See if we get a nice drop out of here, back down, and then continuation to the upside after the drop, or we'll see if these zones get violated. Not too sure, but I feel we're going to encounter sellers here in the near term, so just be careful and watch out for that. About it for the Aussie dollar market. Let's go to the Euro pound.
And actually, I do know that some APAZones users actually did get long on that push into this big weekly level. And I think it's good to be long before you're encountering the actual weekly level, because we don't
Right.
know what's really going to happen. We know that this is a decision point, that price has got to make the decision what's going to happen here. But as long as we're buying before that point, which the guys did a good job of doing, I think that's really important that we knew, they knew where they were in context, and they made the appropriate call. So good job for those that got long on that one this past week.
Yeah, that would have been a good trade right there, that demand zone. It was a good time to get long. But now it's getting late in getting a little later in the move. So probably if you're not in it by now, you probably want to stay out and see what happens next. Over to the Euro pound. Okay, here we are on the Euro pound. We've been pushing up on this Euro pound for a while now. And as you can see, we're retesting this chocolate zone here on the weekly. We got a first test, we got a small drop out of it, and now we're back up in here. This chocolate zone indicates that this weekly zone is getting weak. I don't know if we're going to encounter any more sellers if we push deeper into it, or if it's going to get violated. But the trend is up, so let's take a look at the daily, see what's going on. And as you can see here on the daily, just been nice steady climb up, and here we are. There's another chocolate zone inside that chocolate weekly. We've got a chocolate daily zone here. Price looks like it's about to get up in there, and we'll see what happens when it gets up in here. Might find a few sellers up in there, but like I said, like the chocolate zone on the weekly, this daily chocolate zone has been touched quite a bit, and we'll see if we get a push down out of here. I don't know. I think this zone's gonna stay intact for a while, but I could be wrong. But I feel the zone's intact, and it's gonna stay intact for a while. And I feel like we might just violate this zone here in the near term and find ourselves up in here in these zones next. We'll see what happens. Trend is up and trending, so if you want to get long, you can. Just keep in mind this zone, you got sellers, potential sellers up here waiting. So you might want to see what happens when price gets up in here and see if we get a drop out of it, back down in here maybe, or back down in here and then another push up before you want to get long again. We haven't made a new, we made a new high, and we're back. We're right at the high we made 4 or 5 days ago. We'll see what happens. I think this trend is going to stay intact for a while though. It's a nice move up.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Yeah. All right, over to the Eurodollar. All right, here we are on the Eurodollar. And this thing's been a big broad range here on the weeklies. You can see prices back up in this weekly zone here. And we got our first test off of it maybe about a month and a half ago, something like that. Found Found buyers down here in this weekly demand. Now we're back up in the supply again. But the euro's been pretty strong lately. I don't know if you guys pay attention to the fundamental side of the news and all that good stuff, but Yellen's been speaking this week. She spoke kind of weak. The dollar's been a little weak lately, so this thing's trending up. Here we are on the daily. Let's go to the daily. There we go. And this thing's been trending up. Looks like this daily zone's going to get violated here. And we're going to find ourselves up in here in the near term. But the trend is up and trending. You see over here, Gabe's indicator says so. And as well as price actions telling us the same thing. I don't know if we're going to encounter any real sellers up in here or not. That's yet to be seen. But I know the trend's up. To get long, you'd have had a good opportunity to get long, 4 days ago? That was a good time to get long. And this little consolidation down here, as Gabe would say, the guns being cocked, and bam, we find ourselves making a new high up in here. And I feel that this thing is going to continue up, and at least up in here somewhere. We might get all the way up to around 1700 before we find any more sellers. I keep looking at this wick over here. Price got away from this area real quick. So there might be some sellers here up in here when we get up in here. Maybe not, but we'll see what happens. But the trend is up. And,
Now, what were you saying last week there, William?
What was I saying? Oh, last week? I felt last week. I felt last week that we're gonna. I said that we're on our way down. And we're gonna start going up again, but I just didn't know exactly when we're gonna get our pop to the upside. I felt that we could probably retest these highs over here in a flip-flop manner and then get our push up, but we didn't quite get there. We got down here and, we got our push up from here, but these were news sparked events. The news sparked this event, when Yellen spoke, and she, gave a dovish speech. That just gave the markets the okay to say, okay, let's buy the euro. Dollar's going to be weak for a while. They don't know what they want to do, and you see the end result. I was thinking it was going to get down at least down here before we got our push up, but I was wrong. I had the right idea, just the wrong area. It happened earlier than I thought it would, but
And
that's
that's okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Just as long as you're able to still take the trade once you see the right conditions manifest.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's very, very important,
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I've drawn out my weekly perspective on this market, from that point that we did a few weeks ago. But just because I'm seeing it from a weekly perspective, I don't know how the market's going to act all the time with such a big forecast given, So
Mm-hmm.
just buy the dips. That's all that I want to do. The euro has been looking very interesting to me now as late. Ever since that big news thing back there when it reloaded into that zone and then popped right back out.
Mm-hmm.
That was a telltale sign for me. That big bar that that we're seeing down there. So I just think it's really interesting to see how that looks. But just follow the trend. Nothing crazy. Just follow the trend. Let the trend be your friend. It'll do a good job.
Follow the trend, guys. Follow the trend. See what's going on with the pound Aussie. This pound Aussie's just been dropping like it's hot, huh? Nice expansion from this previous weekly supply. We find ourselves down here in weekly demand, uh, kind of getting a little consolidated maybe here on the dailies, but we're down here in demand right now, so we might find some buyers here in the near term. Not too sure, but this thing's been a nice downtrend and just been trending very nicely. And here we are. You see where price just stopped at this daily demand. This daily demand zone. Prices came down and stopped. Came back and tested, popped back up, and we're right back down, almost right back into it. I don't know if this is going to be a period of consolidation between these two daily zones or not, but this trend's been intact, so the time to sell it would have been right here, even though even here, I see this as a zone as well. I know price is respecting this zone, but it kind of formed a new zone below it. The software didn't plot it, but I see it. That's why we got our reaction down. We didn't get we didn't get quite to the zone, but we almost did. But I see this little area right here is another zone too, and price got a reaction and fell from it as well. So, and now we're about to test this daily demand zone again. So, you know, if you want to be a seller at this minute, you might want to wait to see if we get another retest up, or see if this zone gets violated, and then try to sell it on the retest after this zone gets violated. Might get another pop back up down here in this aqua level down here maybe.
Yeah, let's draw some of those out. So I could see something like this happening
Mhm.
and making a new low. And then
Mhm.
I could also see something like this happening and make a new low. Okay.
Well,
Now
right.
this is to the downside. This is assuming that the trend is going to continue. We'll just see how that forms. Okay. Now to the upside, I'm probably going to change colors here, and I think this would be very interesting. How does how would this look to the upside? Well, let's say that we did this again, but instead we found this kind of action right there. Okay. Now, in my mind, this could form kind of a inverse head and shoulders pattern if we did this. Okay. And this zone basically flip-flops. It would be somewhat of an inverse head and shoulders, and then it goes up. Okay. So I think it's really cool to be able to weigh out both scenarios. I mean, we know that we're in weekly supply, so I know that there's going to be
Demand.
some type of reaction from this level.
Mhm.
I don't know how big, you know,
Right.
but it is starting on the weekly. Mind you, this is a weekly. This thing is starting to get consolidated. If this candle
Mhm.
closes inside of this candle, you know, we know that the expansion is going to happen next. Is it going to happen to the upside or is it going to happen to the downside? That I don't know. I just have to let the software tell me and my trading system tell me how to approach that. But I know consolidation is happening, and that gets me excited because it's going to break out in one way, and then I'll be ready. So, so that's how I look at that one.
Mhm.
So let's look at the pound New Zealand dollar, or pound Kiwi. All right, so we've been coming down here. It's been a nice trend here on the weekly. We still have this fresh weekly level that hasn't proven itself yet in my mind. And we highlighted this last week, as I recall, as like a very interesting candle. Now we're retesting the low. So this is where we're about to really see who's going to win here, buyers or sellers, you know? It's a decision point area because this is, again, a retest off of a level that is, how old again? Well, it's only from May of 2015, so that's really not that old, you know. That's not old at all. Um, but knowing that that level is there, you know, we can understand why we got the reaction that we did. Now, is it going to power through again or not? I don't know, but this is a deciding area. I'm looking for that consolidation to happen before the rapid expansion. So uh, this would be a good area to take a target if you got short from up here, you know, off of like that little shooting star candle. This would be a nice target area. I really like where the bodies meet the wick over there as far as the target area goes. If you're short, if you're waiting to do a counter trend and say that, you know, this new weekly supply level is going to hold, then, you know, that could happen, but it could also break to the downside. And if it breaks to the downside, we still have some room to fall, you know, before we're hitting another level. And that level was formed back in 2013. So that chocolate level there. So just be aware of that. look for on our entry chart to confirm in one of two ways, to the upside or downside, but this is a decision point area. So I would bet on trend happening. So I'm going to bet on the downside. So we just need to sell the rips, as it were, buy the dips, sell the rips. So sell the rips. And we'll just see how that goes. Now this has been my new favorite market here. And this is because the same pattern that's playing out on the euro is playing out on this market on the daily. Okay, so we've been watching this over the past few weeks. So we've identified a couple of these key areas here, and I'm really thinking that this thing is going to continue to go higher, which so far it's doing a good job of that. We've just made a new high over the past couple days. We are retesting a little bit of resistance, but if this is resistance in an uptrend, then this is just a little area for a little pullback and then get long again, and a little pullback and get long again. So that's what I'm looking for right here, and that's kind of what is represented with these lines over here. So let me just drag these lines out. Okay, so I'm just looking for a nice little pullback now and see how that works. Okay, so we'll see how that goes, but long-term perspective, we are looking at a new uptrend forming, and now that we've gone through our flat area, our range area, and now the system is saying up. So this is very, very cool to see that. What has it been, like 4 weeks now? A month? Maybe a little
Yeah,
bit
it's
longer.
been a
Yeah.
while.
Yeah. So that was it's been over a month, that I've been looking at this thing. So, and it's really cool to see it actually happen. So
hmm
it makes me happy.